gonna be alright. And it will be better than just fine. We're gonna reach the stars and believe much higher. I say it's gonna be alright. And it will be better than just fine. You watch this space, I'm telling you, a champion's in town.
Awesome, awesome. That is my guest today. Her name is Olivia Ambani. She is a singer, songwriter, and a marketing consultant. And I'm really excited to have her in studio today. Welcome, Olivia.
Thank you very much.
And that is such a beautiful song. And I think we will talk about, how I came across that, because it's that particular song that I came across. And it's a really beautiful and inspiring song that gives a lot of encouragement at a time when there's a lot happening, and we need such music in our lives. So I'm really excited to have you on the show today. And the reason why I invited you is because I noticed that first of all, the amazing things that you've been able to do, you being able to launch an album in the midst of a pandemic, and we'll talk about that. But also, we'll be talking about that you launching your album last year. The album is called Awakening. And also, we'll also be talking about, as a creative, some of the challenges that you face, and also being able to sort of move in those two worlds, because we just mentioned that you're a marketing consultant, and at the same time you're a creative, and I resonate a lot with that, and those are some of the things that we'll be talking about now. Let's talk about your album, because
Sure.
I won't go into your childhood and what shaped your appreciation of music or marketing, because I know you've done lots of interviews and I've talked about that, because I have watched your podcast that you did last year with I think it's called the Kiss Bandit. I have read your interview with a good friend of mine on the Nation newspaper. And so, we'll skip that, and we will talk about your album that you worked on last year, because it's a different album from my experience listening to it, because I've been listening to it, incessantly. Let's talk about that, and the process of writing, how it came about, and producing it.
Wow, yeah. So the album was written over a couple of years. Songs were written at different times. So which would be the first song I wrote? I don't even remember the first song I wrote for the album, because I was writing it over the years. But I think one of the second last to third songs was probably Better Than Just Fine. Right. So that it was like at the end or in the middle when I wrote Better Than Just Fine. But writing that album was basically me expressing myself and wanting to share music that I connected to very deeply. And all the songs that I have on the album were created through freestyles. So I like to freestyle, which basically just means singing what comes to mind. And I would record them on my phone, and then I'd go back and figure out which of these songs stuck with me. And what would happen is the song that I'd keep singing over and over again would be the one that I felt is the one that I need to have on the album, because I was like, if it can stick in my mind and I just literally came up with it now, then I think other people will connect with it too.
Right.
But then the theme for the album was really, I thought of the title, The Awakening, because it was kind of me introducing myself to the world in terms of a musician. And I felt like it's also the content of the album is all about sharing your truth and being able to express yourself in a way that's authentic to you. There's a lot of heartbreak songs and also songs about just life in general. And yeah, and then so creating it was me choosing myself and me saying that I'm going to figure out how to make my dreams come true. Because before I started working on the album, I'd been trying to get signed or to win a competition. I was waiting for the break, that big break,
Yeah.
And then I got to a point where I realized I can't wait for someone to discover me. I literally need to discover myself. So I decided I'm going to figure out how to make my music dreams come true. And that's how The Awakening was born.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And as you're talking about, the way that a lot of these songs came as freestyles, and you keep hearing singing the song, or and, and then you're like, okay, this is the song to work with. And when you're saying that, I was just smiling, and I was like, that's the process for me, because it's the same for me with poetry, where I have a line and the line keeps coming, and that's been my writing process until I got to a point where I started having a writer's block, and I was like, okay, I need to force myself to write even when I don't have the inspiration. And I think it comes at different points in your life, but I really resonate with that, where you have lines coming to you, and just for me, just having a notebook or even having my phone and just writing it down,
Yeah.
I found that really helping. So I want us to talk about writing from a very, and even, because you're a singer and songwriter, writing from a very, and a lot of creativity comes from a very vulnerable position, where you're literally just opening up your heart and pouring out your emotions, things that you're going through, experiences that you're having, whether it's heartbreak or any other experience that you're going through. um, I listening to the album and that particular song, things are gonna be all right, better than just fine. What was happening in your life
At that time,
at
wow.
that
So
time?
that particular day when I freestyled that song, I had just had a jam session with a friend, and it was just a difficult season. I felt like so many things just felt like they weren't going right. That particular day just felt super heavy. So when we finished like jamming, I told him, "Can we just jam one last time? Like just one last time? Can we freestyle?" And he was like, "Okay, sure. Why not?" And so he went on the piano, and then I just started singing what came to mind. And I felt like Better Than Just Fine was my way of speaking to me and saying, it's literally going to be all right. Like your dreams will come true. And I think it was when I write songs, I'm very open. I don't mind whether it's right or wrong. I literally just let what comes to mind flow. And I feel like that was kind of a divine message from God or the universe or whatever you believe, like telling me it's really going to be all right. Just keep doing what you're doing. You will get there eventually. And then as I've been working on my music career and life, I literally have been singing or saying those words to myself, like believe in yourself, like keep going. And so that's the space I was in when I wrote the song. Yeah.
And this was last year. And I'm just wondering, as a creative, and this is something, talking from, personal experience. I had great difficulty writing last year. And what I came to realize much later is that it's very difficult for me to write from a place of fear.
Oh.
And there was a lot of that last year, and still even now we haven't fully adjusted, because that thing of not knowing what is going to happen, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of grief around us. You're hearing a certain relative or friend, or a friend of a friend, and with the pandemic happening, and that was very difficult for me. And I realized that it's not every creative who was going through that. Like for some, their creativity just sparked. What was your experience last year?
So last year I did so Better Than Just Fine I wrote a few years ago, but then I did create. Actually, I created a lot last year. So I have this series on my YouTube channel called Freestyle Fridays, and I basically created like 11 plus freestyles that I recorded. I felt like when I'm in different situations, my way of processing is to sing, is to freestyle. So whether it's a painful situation or a happy situation, I will sing. Like that's how I am. I think it's my way of processing things. It's my way of understanding where I am and how I feel. So for me, last year, creating wasn't actually difficult. It actually became easier. But I feel it was also because I finished my album. I felt like I was holding on to a lot of stuff because I really wanted my album to be out, because I didn't want to like release other things and then fall out of love with my album before it was out. So I felt like once my album was out, it was like, yes, it's done. Like, and it was like a release. And then I had all this other stuff come to me. But yeah, I think for me, it didn't actually stop my creativity. If anything, it helped me process the situation and things that were going on. Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, still dwelling on the album, and you as a songwriter, we will come to you as a marketer, because that's something I think we can, there'll be a lot to speak about, and how the two worlds sort of feed off each other. Now, one of your songs, "Just in Time," was selected as a soundtrack to a Netflix. Is it a movie or a series?
Yeah, it's a movie. So
It's a
Just
movie.
in Time, the
How
movie.
did that happen? Oh, sorry. The movie is called "Just
Just
in
in
Time,"
Time.
and
And
your song is "Falling Star." Sorry, I
yes,
was
that's
confusing
it.
the
It's
two.
okay.
Yes.
Wow, how it happened, it was a shoot your shot moment. So I was basically watching the director of Just in Time. She has a YouTube channel, and I was watching one of her movies. And then I heard like a lot of Kenyan music was playing, like Kenyan artist music was playing. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to find out if there's a contact detail of hers, and I'm just going to email her. And then I found out she had a website. I went to a website and I filled in a form and I said, hi, I'm so and so. I have some music out. I also have, so by then my album wasn't yet out. So I said, I also have more music in case you want any, if you feel it will fit for your film. Yeah. And then I left my contact details in the form and then I sent it, and that was it. So I forgot about it. Then 2, 3 days later, I get a DM on Instagram from the director, and she's like, I love your music. And it's amazing that you reached out to me because I'm literally editing now the movie that's out just in time. And yeah, I think we can find a couple of pieces that we can put in a movie. And that's how that happened. And so I sent her the album. She had a listen. An hour later, she calls and she's like, okay, I want this song, and that song. And then she's like, but we'll confirm which particular song we want in the end. And yeah, and then in the end, Falling Star was the song that they chose. And that experience for me showed me, if you do not ask or reach out, the answer is always no. And like, she did not know who I was. Like, she did like nothing, but she was willing to, give me a chance. And she actually told me that when she got my email, because she gets lots of these emails, for some reason, she felt like opening it. And she's like, it's very unlikely that I would because I get so many of these emails. But at this particular time, she decided to open it and then reach out and listen to the stuff that I'd sent her. And I just thought, like, sometimes things just align in the most amazing way. And so when I said yes to being in the film, like when she asked about the music and everything, I I didn't know that it was going to be on Netflix. I don't think she even knew because when we said yes, there was no COVID. Like COVID hadn't yet hit. So it
Oh,
was going to be
yes.
in cinemas, like that's where it was going to be. Then like fast forward a few months later, or like actually I said yes in early 2020, and then like now 2021 is when I got a message from the director saying, oh, by the way, uh, this is where the film is going to actually be. And I was like, what? Netflix, a whole Netflix? So yeah, that's how that happened.
Oh, that must have been amazing. And I'm just
Yes.
thinking, like we live in such amazing times that and we'll also come to this when you're talking about the kind of music that you're doing because having the internet and having that tool has enabled creatives to bypass so many gatekeepers. Because I'm
Yes.
thinking if we're looking 10 years ago, for you to have been able to do that, just have your music as a soundtrack on a movie, like you needed to have an agent, talk to
Yes.
another agent, talk to another agent.
Exactly. And then also the fact that, so the director is Lola D. She's an amazing Nigerian director, and she also worked with a co-director, I believe, Sarah Hassan. So they worked together on the movie. And the thing is, a lot of people have also made themselves more accessible, right? So that's also helped. So the internet has helped, but also people are more open to you reaching out to them, because before, exactly what you're
That's
saying, there'd be
true.
like 10
Yeah, like talk to
steps.
my agent.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
now there is a chance of someone really massive, like actually seeing your cover or like just seeing your piece of work and saying, I
Yeah.
want to use that, or I
Yeah.
want to connect with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's really amazing. And there's also you mentioned something about putting yourself out there, and that now feeds into the work that you're doing as a marketer. So, being a creative, how has your skill set as a marketing consultant, how has that helped you?
Wow, immensely. So, as a marketing consultant, what I made a big decision to make myself my first client, because I felt like if I'm a marketing consultant and my music brand doesn't reflect that I'm a marketing consultant, then, I don't know how many people will believe me, right? So I
That's
felt
true.
like you should be and it's a principle that I tell many people, you should be your first client in whatever it is you're doing. Whatever skills you have, you need to use them for your brand first, because it's the best portfolio you're ever going to have. And so what I've done personally is, like, I have strategies for myself. I have meetings with myself. I'm like, okay, where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve?
Where do you see yourself in 5
Literally,
years?
yeah. I'm like, what are we gonna do? So being a marketing consultant, or being in the industry there, has helped me, like, think about how I can get creative about how I want to push my brand, and just seeing opportunity. Because the things I tell my clients, I'm like, I better be applying them first before I tell anyone else, that this is what they're supposed to be doing. So it's helped me immensely, and I think probably given me an advantage in many ways.
But there's something as creatives, and this is something that I also struggle with. As a creative, you want to be humble. You don't want to be all up in people's faces and be like, "Oh, I'm awesome," and you need to realize I am, and you're all, you're on all social media platforms, and you're just talking about how awesome you are. This I think there's something for certain generation where it was inculcated in us that just be humble. You're not the kind of person that is always just talking about yourself. And a lot of creatives struggle with that. That you feel, oh, I want people to just discover me, and I don't want to be the one blowing my own trumpet. And we see that, and also the value that a lot of creatives attach to being on social media or having a brand online. And so one of the things that, because that's something that I also do, I think we were just talking about this earlier, that I've always had poetry, creativity, and I've always also had a career in communications, PR, specializing in PR and content marketing. And as one of those, so and there's a saying in my mother tongue where you say the maker of pots, cooks using broken pots. Okay. That's the analogy. It comes up better in my own language, but the whole idea is we're very good at this thing and applying the skill set to someone else, but not to ourselves. And so for me, that's a learning curve, coming from you, because it's a lot of times we do that, and the thing to realize is that if you don't put yourself out there, no one is going to come to you and be like, oh, we love your music and we want to do this for you. We want to create an Instagram page for you, and we want to be, posting for you. And so that brings me to the question that I wanted to ask on. So when you now look at, your career in as a musician is taking off, and you also have this skill set as a marketer. Do you see a time where you'll have to drop one for the other, or one will have to take a back seat? And this I'm asking partly for myself, okay? Because I've always had instances in my life where my creativity, I give it priority, and then at certain seasons in my life, my career took precedence. But it's always been, yeah. So how do you see yours panning out?
Well, I think I've been very fortunate that there's seasons. I find with both my music and marketing, there's seasons. So there's some seasons when one is busier than the other. I don't think I'll ever have to give either one up. Also because the way I hope to have my career in both is thinking about ways I can enjoy both. So one of the things I'm doing in marketing now is, yes, I do one-on-one consultations with people, but I'm working on creating courses and training and doing things where I don't have to be physically present. So my marketing career can still continue, whether I'm actually working with people one-on-one or not. And then also the beauty of the internet and being digital means that there's a lot of things you can automate that your career can still grow, again, whether you're present or not. I think I love being in both because they feed each other. One, me being a musician who's a marketer means that I'm more empathetic with my clients because I understand how it feels to have to balance a lot and still market your brand. So I think I like having both, and I'll do my best to keep both in my life as long as possible. But then I'm also aware that who knows what the future holds. The seasons might change and I might get to a point where I'm like, I'm done, or I just want to have a break. But I don't think I'm ever going to give either one up so far. Yeah.
Okay. And this brings me to there's something that we were talking about, and you told me that you bootstrapped for your album.
Yes.
Tell us
I
about
did.
that.
So I was working at an online store. So it was a startup, and I was working there, like heading, like doing comms. I was basically doing everything. So I was the assistant, but I was like pretty much managing the business. And from the money I earned from there, I was putting away in a money market fund so that I could earn interest, so that I could pay for my album. So I knew how much my album was going to cost, and we had a payment plan with my producer. So I knew roughly when I would need to pay for different things. And I decided, I wanted to own my album in every way that I could. So both obviously because I wrote the songs and my voice and everything, but I wanted to also pay for it as if I was a label. And I knew the best way to do that was I needed another job, because at that point in time in my career, I wasn't earning anything from my music. So I decided I get this other job that will feed into my music. But then I also wanted the comfort to create what I wanted that wasn't dictated by somebody else. And I felt like if I paid for my album, then I'd have way more freedom to do that. Yeah.
There are so many lessons to draw from that experience, and I mean your ability to, first and foremost, you being very intentional about that you want to own each and every aspect of the album, because that's something that yes, musicians nowadays are realizing the importance of owning. And my the previous episode of this podcast, I was just talking with my guest, and we were just talking about one of the artists, and they've been having years of court battles because when they got a bad deal. And it's a group that is very well known. They're called De La Soul. And they got a bad deal. They did not own the masters to their music, and they've just
That's
been
tough.
having dragging court cases, but they finally owned the masters to their song. And as being a creative and being very intentional about what you want to do with your music, and that you own each and every aspect of that's really important.
Yeah, and for me, I think what really helped was by the time I was doing my album, I'd watched a lot of different interviews and documentaries on artists, be it locally or internationally, who had gone through that. And so I was like, let me just research a little bit on the music business. What do I need to know? And then I also spoke to like music or entertainment lawyers. I went to June Gashui and I asked her for some feedback on like the contract. So that's another thing I did. Like before my producer and I started working together on like what you've heard now, the instrumentation and like my vocals, I made sure we had a contract, because I was like, let's have a contract first before the thing is released and then everyone changes their mind.
Yeah.
And so doing that really helped me, that now when the music is out and all these things are happening, we already have an agreement, right? So that was really important for me. But I think the thing I think that's important for us as artists is we have to educate ourselves. No one is going to educate, like, like any other business or any other craft, you learn. You don't just learn like how to sew or fashion, you have to learn the business. So I think as creatives, we have to learn the business. And that's nobody's job but our own. Like you must educate yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like a really important point that you've put, and also coming to the what you talked about on money, because this whole idea of a struggling artist has been romanticized so much that and it's stemming from the notion that, and maybe there's some truth to it, that there's creativity that comes from struggle, but then it's sort of taken too far. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that?
And creativity coming through struggle. Well, I think, people can process things. Like, as I said, I process things through music. I think everyone will create from a different place. Some people create from their pain. Some people create from their joy. Most times people believe the pain will help you create really well. But I think that's a bit of a, I don't know. I think it is possible to create from pain, but I don't think that's now means that you should go look for it. I think that there's a space where you can allow yourself to still create from a place of joy. And then also the whole like being a struggling artist, for me, I'm like, that is not a path that I would choose. Yeah, I just feel like there's more abundance, and that's a more happier place to operate from than a place where you're saying you have to struggle to get something good. Yeah.
Now, I came across your song from a newsletter that is shared by some two very good friends of mine. Shout out to Aliyah Kassam and Daisy Mora. So they shared this amazing newsletter that is called Liam Sisterhood, and that is where I got to know about your song.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and then I think the video to just
Better than just fine.
better than just fine.
Yeah.
And I loved the video.
Thank
The ending was not what I expected.
Yeah.
I was hoping the girl would at least get an audition or something nice would happen to her. But I guess that's what the song is about. That things
Yeah.
might not go your way,
But she kind of did. So there's a twist in the video which some people get and some people don't.
I was like, yeah, there's something I didn't get in
So
the ending.
basically, they're both me. So the girl is, so that's me in the past, like going for the audition and not getting, because that actually did happen. So I went when I was studying in
Okay,
uni.
now it makes sense.
Yeah. So I went, so we're doing two timelines at the same time. So there's my past and there's me. And then that's why we use the same house and we go to the same space, because I wanted it to be part of my story. And that has been my journey. You go to auditions, you're told, oh no, sorry. So that's how so in the end it is happy, but sometimes people don't connect. And that's why we call her Olivia.
Yourself with the video of you. Oh, that was. Now I get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then I feel maybe this is just me. I feel like the video, like for us to tell that this is the past and this is the present. If it was in black, I don't know.
I didn't want that. I actually wanted a play on time that was very difficult, and then there's only little clues. So the fact that when she walks into the house and her mother calls her Olivia. Right. So that's, so there's very little subtle things. And it's because also I like film that does that plays on your mind and plays on timelines. So it's something that I was like, oh, when I'm doing a music video.
That don't make sense. I loved the video. And where I was going with this is, this is what I'd want us to dwell on for the next few minutes. So then recently, like a few days ago, I was actually reading another newsletter from this space where we're shooting at Baraza, and they have I think it's a weekly or a monthly newsletter that they send out. And the person who was curating shared a link to a Spotify playlist. And again, two of your songs are in that list. And the playlist that was being shared, it's alternate or underground Kenyan music. And it has about 65 songs. It's compiled by Tetu Shani, and he's doing amazing things. And I was hoping to have him on studio, but that's I'm still trying to get him. But what I love about that is there's a very different sound that is coming out from yourself and different other musicians, Tetu included. There's another artist that I was listening to. I think he's called Mwak. I hope I'm getting that right.
Yes, I know Mwak. Yeah.
Oh, and I'm like, this is so different. It is so, and it's sort of it moves away from what we have known Kenyan music as. And that brings a lot of questions to a lot of people, because they're like, this doesn't sound Kenyan, like, but it's different, and it's appealing to a different audience. How was your music received after the album came out, and all this? Now people are getting to learn about it. Have you had people come to you and tell you, Olivia, your music is good, but kuna vile I sound Kenyan?
I mean, I get told that all the time. It doesn't sound, but then I'm like, I'm Kenyan and I made music, and that's Kenyan enough that it needs to be. Firstly, that's what I think. But then at the same time, I think like we all express ourselves in very different ways. people really loved it. I've gotten so many people say I connect to this song. This is my favorite song. Some songs that I didn't even think would be their favorite song. Like people are like, this song, like one of the songs that I didn't know would connect so well with people is Don't Break. So it's the second song on the album, and I've gotten a lot of people tell me that they connected to it. But yeah, I think when I was creating the album, the most important thing to me was being authentically myself. So how can I create music that I love, that I connect to? And I think that when it comes to Kenyan sound, I think it's very varied. I don't think there's anything specific. And even when we look at other regions where we think we know what is, say, the Nigerian sound or the, that's just what is known most of. But if you go to the country, it's so diverse. What else is there? Or even like in Tanzania, maybe what we know is bongo. Like that's the one that we might know because it's the one that was exported the most. But it's so diverse. And I think even as me as an artist, the most important thing to me is make sure you create something you connect with and that you love. And that way other people will be able to connect to that. Yeah.
I totally agree with you, because I think the argument stems from when someone is just looking at it for commercial reasons. So they're like, we don't know how to package your music. Like we need to call it Afrofusion, but then or we need to call it something. And that now it comes down to, as an artist, what are your incentives for creating? Because there are those who, they are like, I just want to make a hit and then make money from it. And so if that is, that is your line, then, there are different types of music that you can, use different styles and you will get there. But then if you want to make music that is authentic to you and you feel it is really coming from, a place of, a place where you know that is you, then it doesn't matter what people will call it. Like
yeah, it doesn't. And I think also at the end of the day, you still can make music by being authentic. You just have to be really strategic, right? Like, so there's a lot of money in syncing, like having your music placed in movies, right? So that is a growing, and especially with the pandemic, because now a lot of streaming platforms like Netflix signed up so many more films than before, like, and other people started streaming platforms because we were stuck at home. You couldn't go to the cinema. So I think there are different ways you can make money. I know of people who, like, I've watched their masterclasses and they're making lots of money just because they got film placements or advert placements, but they're not known. Like, not many people know who they are, but they're making money. So I think it's also, as artists, opening our minds to the business of music and how many ways we can still make an amazing living from music, whether you have like a trending song or not. Yeah.
That's really true. And also, I think there's also a need for musicians and even creatives to awaken to the fact that the old scripts of, oh, this is the way that we market music, or this is the way that we market poetry, or this is the way that we market writing, that all those scripts, like, you just have to throw them out because they no longer work. And the reason I'm saying that, and coming from speaking as a writer, there are lots of writers nowadays who self-publish.
Yes.
So, because previously a lot of writers believed, oh no, I need to get a publisher, and of course the publisher will tell you, we're not looking for this kind of writing. Oh, the kind of writing you're doing, we're not looking for this style. If you could write like Chimamanda, then she's paved the way for African writers, so you need to write like that. But you're like, I'm not Chimamanda. Not everyone can write like her.
True.
So now self-publishing has become an avenue through which different writers can still have their work read. And right now I'm reading a book from she's a South African writer called Zukiswa. One of her book is called The Madams. A very interesting book. And she actually created publishing house to publish her work.
Wow, I love that.
Yes, and this is the lesson to all us creatives out there, that you will find avenues. Even if it's especially if it's your music. I mean, who would have thought that your song would have been a soundtrack or in a movie on Netflix?
I know, right?
So I mean, that right there tells you. And I mean, we're living in amazing times, and I think we are at that point where, as a creative, follow your gut, follow your gut instinct.
Absolutely. And when you were talking about self-published, so I have a cousin, his name is Robert Bell, and he self-published last year, and his book is called Blow the Lid Off. And that's exactly what he did. He raised the money, he did everything. And now he has his book out. And it was because he believed in his vision, and he was like, I'm not gonna wait to get a publisher. I'm going to actually, release the book. And so follow your gut. It honestly, it's one of the best guiding tools you have internally. And the more we listen to that, yeah.
So, and that's a great note for us to end. And thank you so much, Olivia, for coming on to the show. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing. Them there rooting for you. And you can find Olivia and her music on Spotify. You'll find her on social media, across the different social media platforms. Please follow her, follow her work. And so please, and also engage with her. So it's been great having you onto the show. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. If you haven't, don't forget to subscribe to my podcast on any of the podcasting channels that you use, or even on YouTube. So until the next time, kwaheri.